was my last call-in show before I went daily in Manhattan Neighborhood Network. I went to a 7:30 time slot in the morning when I had Webster Tarpley, and I was super excited. Notice how YouTube has contained me by sort of sabotaging this so it's only going to about a quarter of the screen. All of this is blank, which makes a worse viewing experience. And so here I am coming from the Express Studio. And What the Bleep Do We Know was a cult classic using quantum mechanics and showing how consciousness is related to what we create.
It originally started with interviews that we had from people who are now stars on the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? And for those of you who are interested in this movie that has to do with quantum mechanics and how we create our reality, you're very aware that there's now a sequel called Down the Rabbit Hole. However, farther down the rabbit hole here at MNN came first. I call them ancient interviews because the interviews were done before the movie What the Bleep was even contemplated. And the show developed. We did interviews, and then we did these old interviews, the ancient interviews, that went into the topics very deeply. And then we took calls from you, the viewer. And these calls from you, the viewer, allowed us to go even deeper into the topics. And so now we come to the last show of the live call-in. We've done this for 3 seasons, and it's a bittersweet moment because I have many fond memories of all my callers, both the ones that took the concepts to really exalted levels, and those that were just sort of being a little bit rascally and having a good time with the whole idea of calling up and being, as one of them said, offensive. This is something I wanted to go into straight away. I didn't explain very clearly that I said it wasn't about being offensive. It was about learning how to make a connection. And something that these callers allowed me to do by going more deeply into my feelings and listening to the calls many, many times was that the responsibility that I felt to my guests. And so when I went very deeply into my guests' responses, I don't think they were offended either, but I will say that probably fear was involved, because it's a little scary to put yourself out there, to be enthusiastic about wanting to share something, and then feel that what you're wanting to share was misunderstood. But I am so enthused to know wherever the misunderstanding lies, that I'll go to any lengths to discover what the misunderstanding is all about. And so I've always kept the airwaves open. I've never wanted to do screening. Webster Tarpley in his radio show said that you have to have 5-minute delays, and that way you can get rid of the offensive callers. But again, it's not about offensive. And finally, I want to be able to state my position very clearly regarding my guests. It can be a little scary, and it can be even very scary when you feel that you're not really understood properly. And I think in this day and age, when we have a media, and the media is not really expressing what the masses are feeling, the masses get scared. And my feeling is through nonviolent communication, by being able to express this feeling of fear, those that have the power and can make decisions to alleviate this fear might be inspired to do that once they really understand that fear is there and it's not about judgment and blame. Now, again, I wanted to say that when I bring guests on this show, if I'm not making connections that are succinct and understandable, then I feel I have a debt to them and an obligation to clear that up. And so, although I may not have been as fearful when the calls came in, I definitely felt a big concern to my guests that I brought them up to the chopping block that they may not have bargained for. I'm very aware that there is a sort of a metaphorical chopping block here, but I feel that when times are very intense, those are also the times of the greatest promise to understand the greatest possibilities. And again, I was down at St. George's Church the other day, and I picked up another book called Not Every Spirit, and it's a dogmatics of Christian disbelief. It's a really fascinating account, and whenever I pick up scholarly books, I always flip over to the resurrection. And the resurrection is something I feel, if it's understood very well, not just mindlessly worshipped, it has the potential to bring together our very, very divided world, where Jews aren't understanding Christians, aren't understanding Hindus, aren't understanding Muslims. And as a result of this misunderstanding, we're very, very easily manipulated and misled. So I just want to start this last live call-in show with a few thoughts of how deep this topic is. The resurrected life in the Spirit is not affirmed as a disembodied life. In this respect, the incarnation is not abrogated by the resurrection. It is only, as we have noted, in light of the resurrection that the gospel speaks of Jesus' presence, birth, and death, actually pre-existence, birth and death. Despite the variety of ways in which the different writers of the New Testament portray the risen Christ, there is a primacy of witness to the resurrection. Thus Paul, whose testimony contains no nativity accounts, writes to the Corinthians, "If Christ has not been raised, then our proclamation has been in vain, and your faith has been in vain." Corinthians 15:14. What is confessed is that in the person of Jesus Christ, all that opposes creation is defeated, including the final enemy of death itself. The humiliated servant is in reality the exalted Lord. The one who has been delivered over into the hands of sinners is now revealed in faith as the one who holds all sinners in his hands. The writer of 1 Peter speaks of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who has gone into heaven and is at the right hand of God with angels, authorities, and powers made subject to him. What I want to say is they're saying that when Christ said that he descended into hell in order to pull off the resurrection, it meant that he was humiliated. I feel differently. I feel that if we look at the Shroud of Turin, you can see a cloth that has blood on it indicating the suffering, but this phenomenon of the image that the scientists cannot account for how it's created bespeaks of a process where even the materiality of the bones in the body can be resurrected. And again, in Greek, anastasios means like stasis, homeostasis, balance, means to go beyond the stasis, go beyond the death. And I'm very pleased that last week I had the Greek Orthodox priest come to my house after we had a little ceremony of blessing for Tata, my new incarnation here, which will be a morning edition at 7:30 every day. It won't be live. We won't be able to have call-ins, and it's only a half an hour. But I'm very enthusiastic about this because it seems as though the show has evolved to spirituality and politics. So I want to say again, in regards to the resurrection, I do believe I'm strong on two things. One is understanding in a very wise way what the resurrection is, and also I hold strongly on to 9/11 truth. And the resurrection, I think, can be to Christianity what Webster Tarpley says. My hop is to the 9/11 truth movement. And the importance of the 9/11 truth movement is that impeachment is in order, not as something that has to do with judgment or blame, but simply saying that misprision of treason has happened. The president, the present tenant in the White House, hasn't really upheld the Constitution. And now it's time just to step back and, relax a little, take a break, because obviously this office was a little too much. This is something that I want a lot more dialogue on. I won't be able to have it in a live way, but I am hoping that as I learn more about blogging, that we can make this kind of connection through the internet, so then I can pre-record the answers and then present them to you. But nonviolent communication is all about making connections, being aware of our feelings, our needs, being able to make our requests, and as a result of being able to make the requests, because we're in touch with what we want, we can expect that others will be able to hear our needs better and meet them. The requests can be answered. So those are the two things I'm strong on, the resurrection and 9/11 truth. That's why I say spirituality and politics. And finally, this may not be for this upcoming season or this morning edition, but I do want to say that mantra and yantra creates tantra. So again, as regards to the lively call-ins that oftentimes would end with sexual innuendos, the West usually understands tantra as something to do with sex, that religion in the West has sort of thrown out sex, and as a result people sort of stampede to those places where they feel that they will be okay about this expression in their life. There's a lot more to Tantra than that. Tantra is a process. And on my morning edition that will start next week, I'm going to be having a special one for the solstice. And it will be the sun rising. I went down to the East River, took a picture of the sunrise, a video of it, and I say some mantras, some sun mantras. And for those of you who are sensitive, I would highly encourage you, if you can't get up at 7:30 in the morning, then to pre-record that show. Pay attention to the mantras, and keep in mind that yantra has to do with a shape, like a cross, or what we call the Star of David in the West. It's called the Sri Yantra in India and the East. The swastika is a very revered yantra in the East. Tibetans use it, also Native American Indians use this yantra. A yantra by masters who I've studied with are said to be 1,000 times more powerful than mantras. And with mantras and yantras and the science behind them, we can create extraordinary new realities. So again, stand by for more information and email me, and we can stay connected. So what I want to do is go on to just to have closure to when I had the rabbi, who I had not met before, and my African American esoteric astrologist. I want you to hear again the nature of this call-in, and tune in to, this is not a fence on her face. And I want to say, you can see how savvy she is. She picks up on what's going on a lot quicker than I do, and a lot quicker than the rabbi does. And then we'll talk a little bit more about it later. Oh, let's see if we have a call. Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
Any
How
comments?
Are you?
How are you?
Time magazine last year had a whole article that said gay teens, generally, homosexuality isn't a big thing.
Okay, can we deal with that later? Thanks for calling. Okay, I have another caller. Hello, caller, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Ma'am, we've spoken before, but today...
Oh, I remember you very well, and I'm glad that you're calling back.
Your comments today have really gotten me dizzy. And with all due respect, how dare you call for President Bush's impeachment based on what? Do you understand the reality that the Arabs are no good? NG, flat, finish, finito.
Okay.
The only thing that they know is death. Have you ever been to Israel? Have you ever
Yes, I
lived
have,
among
sir.
them?
I have been to Israel. I've been to Tel Aviv. I've enjoyed the museums, the culture. I used to live on the island of Cyprus for 4 years. Remember in a previous call I told you I was
Absolutely.
building an eco village?
But I want to come back to these Muslims. I don't want to get off base here.
Oh, sir, can you email me?
Yes.
I want to stay in touch with you, and all your comments I want to have for the morning edition pre-recorded. Promise me you'll email me?
Ma'am, is there a way I can give you my number off the air where we can talk?
Okay, call me after we go off the air, okay?
Okay,
but take this email down, okay? rabbitholecentral@earthlink.net.
Okay, honey, just one last thing. The rabbi that you speak of, what is his or her name?
Rabbi Bobroff.
Oh, is that a woman?
No, a man. I'm going to roll him in right now, okay?
Okay,
and
thank
pay careful attention to his expression and also to Jennifer's.
Okay, thank you, sweetie.
Okay, great. And email me and call me after, because I want to work a lot more with you on this topic of impeachment, okay?
Okay, thank you, sweetie.
Okay, bye. Okay, I must go on or I won't be able to cover all the materials. So here we are with Geneva.
We have a couple of calls.
We do have calls. Okay, let's take some calls now. Yeah, no. Do we have any calls?
Hello?
Hello?
Good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, just well. And you?
Very good. My father happens to be Jewish and my mother is African American.
Oh, wonderful. You're the perfect caller.
Well, that's why I decided to call in.
Great.
And I do appreciate today's topic and all. And my mom has had some conflicts because I want to be raised Catholic because I want to adopt my future wife's religion. She's African American, my father is Jewish, and I'm taking another route. And I figured
Now watch Geneva's expression here. She's really hip to what's going on.
thing out.
What's Geneva? This sounds like you're down your alley. This.
I just think I think that people take religion a little bit too seriously.
Hello, miss. Hold on, let me put my mom on, okay?
Okay.
Mom, you take the phone and speak about this? I really appreciate it. Hold on.
Thank you.
Oh, we didn't know Mom was in the house.
Let's let Mom speak.
Hello?
Hello? Hi.
Hello?
Geneva, you take this.
Yes.
Let's do tight on Geneva here.
Are you all being for real? I mean, what is it? I'm not clear.
What's the problem?
I'm a bastard trying to get over and try to look like you.
Well, this is a negative call. We just
It's a negative call? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are back again.
It's deep.
And I want to say that what Geneva was saying, what she told me later on when we were at home, she said, you've got to stop having these calls. And she felt the negativity, and I could go on even a little bit more on that. But what was really touching was when we sat in my bedroom later on, because she came up from D.C. for a few days, and I always insist at the end of every show, I watch my shows, and if I have guests that I can possibly convince to watch with me, I sit there and watch, and I said, what do you think they meant here? What do you think they meant here, like this and that? And later on, it was clearly a black caller, and she said things even harsher. And what Geneva said, at first she didn't want to watch the show. She said, Paula, you've got to change things. You can't bring this negativity into what you're trying to do. And I watched it still, and then she crept over and sat on my bed, and together we're watching. And she made this expression about, she said it's deep, and it had to do with self-hatred. And the excitement that I have that we can, through the medium of television, go to extraordinarily deep levels if we start having the trust in each other that we can share. Like the caller before, he doesn't like my position about the impeachment, and but you know, that doesn't matter. The important thing is that he made the call. And what I'm hoping is through the blog, through the video blogging or whatever it's called, because I don't have those skills yet, that even though I won't be able to have a live show, the fact that I'll have a daily show coming on at 7:30 in the morning, there'll be some way through the internet I can gather these responses, and maybe we can even have call-ins to a studio in another place, so I can pre-record the answer and still have this transparency that I'm always looking for, but then move over into going into deeper levels. So that's why I want to stay connected to you. So now I am going to change to one of my very favorite shows. It's a classic. Oops, let me turn around. I'm getting twisted up in wires here. And this show was one of my first done in 1999 when I first experimented with live call-ins. I did it with Frank Craven, and the topic was something extraordinarily provocative to me at that time. It's about sex slavery in the White House. So let's let this roll and see what you think. This one part is related to all parts. So through my interest in teeth, I got interested in the health of all the body. Through interest in health for all of. Let me just pause here and say that where I want to take this show on the morning edition is I want to go more back into a big love of mine, which is holistic health. And obviously Jesus didn't resurrect, because of drinking wheatgrass juice. But there's a lot we can learn about diet and lifestyle, the Alexander technique, and so on. So this show was done when I had a tooth show. It was called The Whole Tooth, where I went into holistic dentistry. And so my fascination with this topic of mind control, it got me to do this that you're looking at right now. All the body, I got interested in the mind. I've been very interested in pursuing higher states of consciousness and knowledge about higher states of consciousness for 20 years. Now, in the same way that teeth are holistic, or any part of the body can be like a hologram for all parts of the body, there's a phenomenon going on in the world that all people, good, moral, non-criminal people, should be aware of, and that's mind control, or the ability to influence another individual's free will. People who are more of a tyrannical nature, tyrants, can impose their will on others who are victims. Ultimately, I feel whether you're a victim or a perpetrator of victimization, a tyrant, society is on the brink of lifting above all of this so that we can love and share our humanity, what it is to be human, which is ultimately to know our divinity. So in this show tonight, we're going to be talking about sex slavery in the White House, which is the most full-blown expression of mind control, and how some individuals have had their free will taken by other individuals, and these other individuals are powerful people and they're well-known people. I have with me tonight Frank Craven, who is more knowledgeable on this topic. My introduction to the topic was through Kathy O'Brien. So I'll, as the show goes on, I'll tell you a little bit more about my interests. So thank you for joining us, Frank.
My pleasure, Paula. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, it's an outrageous topic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very shocking and scary. I confess about 3 years ago, I was invited to a Bill of Rights rally in Washington, D.C. to speak because I'm a poet and a fellow producer here at them, and I thought I'm not sailing here in America. Fridays at 3:30 at 4, Channel 57.
What's a...
That cut off for some reason. Just when Frank was introduced.
Oh, no.
Protesters outside the convention hall with all kinds of issues, and we never see that on primetime TV, only on public access TV.
Nevertheless, Transformation of America, Kathy O'Brien's book, has sold 14 million copies.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so my understanding, it's the best-selling privately published book. So that means the information's out. Now, a lot of times people say, well, you're into conspiracy theories, or you're paranoid, or you're feeling disempowered.
No, it's not. It's documentation, letterheads, and proof, and evidence.
No, but my feeling is, instead of getting upset that all these bad things are happening, let's look on the other side. Many people must have helped Kathy to get this message out.
And the lies will fail.
And eventually, yeah. But I feel that the same mechanics of mind control can be flipped the other way, that we are on the verge of understanding huge potentials that lay dormant within us, that we can start to unfold. And with stronger, more focused awareness, we can bring changes in our life that are good, and we can be individuals that can help others.
Oh, absolutely. So, I believe that as they say in the Course of Miracles, if a miracle's not happening, something's wrong. Because in God's realm, miracles are very normal and reality, and we're like the fingers or the hands of God.
As we get more towards God's realm or divinity, we should be able to have expressions of more miracles, and there are more. So I believe there's a call happening right now. Paula, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
What's your opinion? Do you believe that there's sex slavery in the White House?
I don't know. I've seen a lot of sex slavery, like here in New York, but I didn't know it was going on in the White House.
What have you seen here in New York?
I mean, some of the bondage clubs, there's like crazy things going on. I mean, like, I was in one and they had a guy in the closet. It's just silly.
I understand what you're saying, Carla, but you know, some people choose to do this. They find it stimulating and exciting, and we're not really talking about that. Do you think?
Hey, I dig it.
But do you think any of the people that are doing something against their will? That's the part that we're concerned about.
Oh yes, I totally do. I mean, even in the White House, I mean, I don't think that little intern wanted to do anything.
Okay, because see, now here's the interesting part. Just like I say, I'm with the whole tooth and that dentistry is holistic. If you've got a rotten tooth, sometimes it means that there's something off.
I have a rotten tooth right now.
Okay, well I'm very interested in dentistry, believe me, but I believe this is an important topic and that's why I'm deviating on it. But what I want you to consider is, you may enjoy these sexual activities, but you're doing it out of free choice. My concern is people who can't, because what Kathy Brown witnessed and what it says in her books is that there's actually a scheme to bring a different kind of education to the population at large. And this education means that people learn more and they analyze less. They absorb, they have the ability to absorb a lot of information, but their critical ability to judge and discriminate becomes less. So that Kathy and many sex slaves have photographic memory. Now we think of photographic memory as something astonishingly good.
What
do you think about what he said? He said in the sex clubs that he's seen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of outrageous
that's a whole
behavior.
moral decadence that's going on. Now, George Bush says he wants to bring dignity back to the White House, and who does he have? The WrestleMania. And what kind of dignity is that? That's absurd. And it's just a big ruse and this nonsense that our whole moral compass is just spiraled down. And that's part of the mind control thing that's happening en masse, that America's dummied down into a stupor that they don't even realize these violent video games and just nonsense on TV.
I think we have another caller, and then what we're going to do is we're going to have a roll-in of Kathy talking about whether mind control really brings peace of mind, because it seems Ronald Reagan, she overheard him saying once that he believed the way to world peace was to control everybody's mind.
Yeah.
And she felt her experience is that it's not a peaceful way to be. So if we had a whole bunch of people under mind control, that wouldn't be good. But for now, caller, can you hear me?
Yes.
What do you think about this topic about whether we have sex slavery in the White House?
I don't know how comfortable I am with the word slavery.
Okay.
I have a question. Where the people who are allegedly enslaved, now, where are they coming from? What are their age ranges?
Okay.
They're pedophile. They're brought into sexual slavery from a very young age. As Kathy herself has said, she had a penis in her mouth before her mother's breast, and that's all she knew. And incidentally, it was Gerald Ford who did it. And Gerald Ford was part of the mafia pornography ring that he was unelected president, brought in by Nixon, and then he had Dick Cheney as his guy.
Right, and my question, Laura, is how...
Now, see, that caller seemed pretty balanced. And later on, when I had the opportunity to work with Nick Bryant, who wrote the book about the actual story, this is the fantastical story. The actual story is still pretty bad. So this is a good caller, again, showing the value of call-ins.
Or are they affiliated with, like, how was her mother or whomever in charge of her affiliated with the White House?
No, whose mother? Kathy's mother?
Yes, or whoever these people are.
Oh, no, what happened, it's really simple, is a person abuses their child, and because there's laws against it, they are up for criminal activity. They could go to court and they can serve years in prison. But some powerful people in the government have the ability to circumvent that, to say we will not bring you to justice if you agree to participate in a program. So these children are then entered into a program, and the reason they want these children is because typically those who have been abused, when they have children, they'll tend to abuse their children. So it tends to run genetically. But more than that,
I wouldn't say it's genetic, I would rather say it's behavioral.
Well, whether it's behavioral or not, the behavior is already established, and here's the behavior that interests people who are interested in mind control. They have the ability to compartmentalize. So obviously many people have been sexually abused, and they're not involved in government programs to intensify the situation. It's just a sorry situation that they have to live with, and hopefully later on in life they can seek therapy and overcome it and forgive their parents. And when they have children, they don't abuse their children. But in this case, they seek after these people because such a person who's been abused, such a child, has the ability to compartmentalize memory. So they have the experience, but they lock it away so that when they go to school and interact with the Girl Scouts or whatever, they just carry on as if it's normal. And later on, this is what can be developed highly so that when they have the experience, it's so isolated and so compartmentalized, they have photographic memory. Now, this is very useful for drug smuggling, for remembering bank accounts, for remembering long speeches that no one else would be entrusted to, you know, through telegrams or Federal Express, because people who are playing high-level politics don't want to be caught. So that's some of the background of it.
I'd like to interject that last month I ran a series on Arizona Wilder, who was another sex slave, and then also Bryce. I'm going to work on hers, and I have lots of testimony of people that have gotten out of the program.
No, I know.
That have said I've been subjugated to this torture and abuse. And have been able to escape.
I just want to slow you down a little bit because people here are hearing this for the first time, and I want it to sink in. Paula, are you still with me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just trying to kind of bring you up to speed on a very vast topic that really needs a lot of study and scrutiny. And Frank has scrutinized it for so many years. You can see he's filled with enthusiasm to switch it.
Yeah, I've got lots of emails. If you look into mindcontrol.com, I think it is. Of course, the internet is not a reliable source of information, but you've got a lot of people that are ranting and raving for pages and pages and hours and hours. Where does all this come from? Not out of the blue. I mean, their people have a source of their story. So a lot of these stories are totally unbelievable and shocking, but I got news for you folks. Whenever anyone has something to say, even if it may be tinged with a lot of lunacy, it's coming from a space that's in their heart that has a frame of reference, and it's...
Yeah, good. Now, we didn't... Paula?
Yeah.
Okay. I really appreciate where you're coming from because you sound like the typical, very good-hearted, moral individual that would never even dream of such a thing. And as a result of not being able to dream of such a thing, it takes a while to assimilate that this is actually happening. So thank you so much for calling.
Don't forget that $3 billion a year goes to the Pentagon Defense, and their focus is destruction, death, killing. That's their focus, and they fine-tune the art of killing and how to eliminate people. This is part of the job of the military, is kill the enemy. So mind control of commandos and techniques of killing and using this is not that far-fetched an idea. And we moral people don't think like criminals, so we can't believe in it. But once you're a head of state, you have top secrets. You have lots of very classified stuff, and so of course you're going to have couriers and top secrets and people that are in and out of your life that has to deal with this top secret stuff.
Yeah. Now, should we have the call now, or should we take a roll in?
Okay. Just think there was one call.
Okay. We got caller.
Yes.
Okay.
How are you doing?
Thanks.
I am right on with what you're saying because you know what? I grew up in a foster care system. Now, how about in the that gives you? I mean, it's ridiculous.
A lot of sexual abuse in the foster care system.
Exactly. Now, people that go through the foster care system that get abused by them and then have their own kids, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then where do they wind up 20 years down the line?
Has he been
in some kind of office?
37 people died under foster care last year in New York City alone. Do you feel that you were subjugated to mind control experiments?
Oh, yeah. They put me on, they even put me on the Visceral at the age of 14.
Drugs, huh? As if you needed it.
And now as an adult, I still have prescription for medicine, but I see a therapist, you know, so that's my own thing.
How much did that cost you?
I get it through my wife's her insurance plan, which is good.
Some people aren't as lucky though, huh? They have to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, I get the good stuff, whereas if somebody was on Medicaid, they would have to get the generic stuff. So it's a whole hypocrisy of everything that revolves around the mighty dollar. If you have to succeed, and if you don't, it's you know, it's a river runs through it. You know what I'm saying?
They force drugs on us that we don't want to use, and don't allow us to take drugs that we want to use.
I think it's a vast topic. I mean, this is like the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Oh well, we could talk for hours. Let's see the roll in the back of your brain.
Let's do that, Ron.
Take a look at this lady, and don't tell me if you don't think that she's a straight shooting, honest person that's come out of this program. This is just a snippet of many hours of testimony.
Right on.
Let's go. Thanks.
Lansing, Missouri was a place where I heard George Bush and Bill Clinton talking. From the point of view I had, they certainly were friends, and they didn't recognize any party lines between them. That's something for the, a smoke and mirrors illusion for the public. It's not something they adhered to because they had exactly the same agenda, and that was for bringing in this new world order. I heard George Bush talking at that time. He was talking to Bill Clinton, and I've since photographically recorded it and wrote it verbatim in our book. That when the American people became disillusioned with Republicans leading them into the New World Order, that Bill Clinton, as a Democrat, was going to be put into the office of president. This was decided in 1984. Actually, I'd heard about it even prior to that. But that, as of 1984, they were already discussing it as an absolute fact. It was also discussed in the groundwork for NAFTA that by the time George Bush went into the office of president, that Salinas was going to become president of Mexico, and they together would be bringing in the NAFTA, which was the beginning of New World Order controls. I was forced to participate in the criminal groundwork for NAFTA, the opening of the Juarez-Mexican border to the free trade of drugs, the free trade of our nation's children. It's absolutely appalling, the criminal roots of NAFTA. Again, this is detailed in the book. But it's interesting to know.
Transformation in America is her book, and it's amazing because when you think, as soon as Clinton got in power, he bombed Baghdad. Why? He's supposed to be a Democrat. He should honor Carter's non-intervention policy and human rights policy, but no. And he continues to this day to bomb Baghdad. I think he erased some of the computer records that George and Saddam had him over the phone for many years when they pitted Iran against Iraq. So, within the upper echelon of government, it's all pretty much organized and...
But the point is that the bright point of Kathy's work is that we shouldn't feel helpless.
Right.
We should feel that we can do things.
Yeah, she says, you don't have to run away, you run right at them because they're criminals.
Because, Frank, here we are sitting on public access television.
Yeah,
and public access television is paid for by the viewers when they sign up for cable as part of when this great privilege is given to a cable operator to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. They throw back a little bit. I think in Manhattan they get about $5 million a year, which is a very tiny percentage of the profits that the cable companies make.
Every small community has to organize and make sure they have a public access TV show.
Exactly. And where it comes from is, I think, work done in the 50s, when the realization was that commercial messages, non-commercial messages, or messages that couldn't afford Coca-Cola type sponsoring were being threatened. And so as part of our constitutional right for free speech, we have public access. Viewers, I can't tell you what a great thing it is in this country that at least we can talk about these things. You may agree or you may not agree if there's sex slavery in the White House, or many other topics, but at least we can consider it and talk about it.
Right. IndieMedia.org. IndieMedia.org. You can tune in on Channel 34, 8 to 10 every morning, and see the public access. First time all the public access communities are getting together. And outside the convention, they had on debates with the Green Party members and the different people, even a Republican candidate, and they're real honest media communication going on about the conventions, and there was some sort of, quote, bomb scare, and so they blew out the satellite, and the police are chasing away the demonstrators. And unfortunately, the spirit of the Libertarian Party or the Green Party or the alternative parties are what is generating the real heat. There's an alignment of planets, and there's an awakening of consciousness and an explosion of awareness through technology that people are waking up to their divinity within.
That's beautiful.
And to the ability to communicate.
Because that's where I want to take this, is more to the divine. Let's see what a caller has to say. Caller, can you hear me? Is someone, I heard that we had a caller. Do we have a caller? Okay, since there's not a caller now, I want to go in more, Frank. My interest in full potential of the mind is that we all know we're only using 5 or 10% of our capacity. Scientists study the brain, and they see that this is the only organ that hasn't atrophied, even though a tiny part of it is used. And so the question always is with this great brain capacity, what's it for? And it turns out remarkable individuals throughout the ages of Jesus Christ, who could walk on water, multiply loaves, turn water into wine, were able to demonstrate miracles. And I think this is the hope. Oh, we've got the caller. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. I see this question across your screen about sex slavery in the White House.
We're wondering what your opinion is.
Well, I'm wondering if this is just a metaphor for the larger issues that you're talking about. I mean,
Absolutely.
It seems to me that the most powerful person, public person that we know about in the world women flock to him, women attracted to him, no matter how big or bad or ugly he is. Yeah.
Caller, what you're saying, are you talking about Bill Clinton?
Yes.
Okay, what you're saying is, why would he choose a sex slave?
Why would he need a sex slave?
Okay, you're absolutely right. If you read the book, you find out he doesn't. He's actually, according to the book, he's got other problems, okay?
He's
bisexual.
But I think Frank on his show was taking the parts of Kathy O'Brien's what is it? Not deposition?
Testimony.
Testimony. And actually, a big abuser for her was Dick Cheney.
Yes.
So I don't know how he does at the cocktail parties. But
he would brutalize her in his private bathroom and have a lot of violent sex with her. Dick Cheney is very vicious in private. We used to be, and also Senator Byrd, another old-time geezer of our government. It's been in office for over 30 years. Who abused Kathy O'Brien, and he was the head of the Arms Appropriation Committee. He held the purse strings of the government. So he has all the real nasty secrets. And these old men are, unfortunately, according to Kathy, I can't say for certain, but I do know Kathy. I've met her a few times. I believe her story, and she swears up and down that she was physically abused and tortured by these characters, plus others.
But caller, I really hear what you're saying. At first, it kind of defies common sense. But it's as you pursue it more, you begin to see there is rhyme and reason. My interest in politics wasn't so much the bizarreness of sex slavery or even that interest, but some of the politicians, the way they're voting and the cost of what this is to the taxpayers. Like $20 billion worth of bombs fell on Serbia, and most of the American public hardly knows how it happened.
Where we bomb Iraq on a regular basis.
I mean, we could go on, but I think the most important thing to me is to try to look for the positive and to try to nurture the positive, because I believe it is there. After all, Kathy O'Brien's book is the best-selling privately published book.
Transformation in America.
And you'll see at the end of the show, to get your pen and papers to get the P.O. box and the telephone or the address where you can order the book.
You just send a $15 check, you'll get your book.
They have a very
Barnes & Noble doesn't have it.
Kathy mentioned in the videotape that it was predestined, it was chosen that Clinton would be elected or be the president as far back as 1984. I had heard it was done in 1991 at a Bilderberger meeting. Both Clinton and Bush belonged to this secret organization called the Bilderbergers. What do you know about them?
Well,
I'll get off the line with you.
No, I really appreciate your call. I think all of those are kind of details. I think in general the public knows when they hear the Democrats speak and the Republicans speak at the convention, they just feel that there's really not that much news. And the way their jobs are going and their lifestyles going, it can be shown that people work harder, have less leisure time, and really accomplish less in spite of all these labor-saving devices.
Yeah, they talk about a booming economy, but it's the phenomenal technological revolution, the internet, Wall Street being taught in the high schools, and unfortunately, what are the issues? The issues are penal code reform, medical marijuana, the homelessness, things like that. Clinton is happy to say I slashed the welfare budget. He cut it in half. Excuse me. They're both, the bipartisan politicians are just snowballing us into thinking that I'm better than that party. But the real issues are raised by Ralph Nader or John Hagelin or even Pat Buchanan. They are outsiders.
John Hagelin, who's
John Hagel of the Natural Law Party.
he was a TM.
Yeah, he's in meditations. He's a doctor. He's written.
You see, meditation. There you are again. I mean, you know, this is a huge topic. I'm even thinking of making a whole weekly show on it. Obviously, sex slavery is sort of flashy. It catches attention, but ultimately, what you want to do.
Sex slave is just part of its mind control of the masses and the media.
Frank, we've got to wrap it up.
Oh, well, you've been off the air.
Thank you.
Good show.
Yeah, thank you. And let's do more. Call in if you have the number and tell us what you think about this for the future. Thank you for joining us. This is Paula Gloria with The Whole Tooth. And just like teeth are related to all parts of the body, if there's anything like sex slavery going on, I think it's because there's something askew in all parts of our society, which I think we can rectify. So thank you for joining us, and thank you so much. So here we are back again, and I want to say that I'm going to be having my, let me see if I got this volume up enough. I'm going to be having my new show in the mornings, and I'm going to try to draw together all of the important topics. I want to just wrap up before I take the calls, that shortly after that, you can see that was about 1 year and 1 month before 9/11. When 9/11 happened, I was in an ashram in the south of India. That was the first I heard of it. And it was very interesting because I was told by a master, a manifesting master, he could do the miracles and some astonishing miracles. And I'm hoping that that's what I really long to exchange knowledge on, because it is an extraordinarily exciting time in which we're alive. And the caller I had before that was offended about my position on impeachment, I want to say that was also the caller, because I remember his voice, that was saying everything's corrupt. But there is a way out. Kathy O'Brien, at the time that I met her, I was a little hesitant. I didn't meet her. The time that I encountered her work and heard about her, I heard she was a very devout Christian. And I was very interested in Eastern things. I always have been, but I've also, as that caller before noted, I take very seriously all the phenomenon in my culture and tradition, which is Christianity. So I felt that if I met her directly, she might think that I was studying Hinduism or something, and being that she'd been through so much trauma, I didn't think that it would be such a good time to meet. But when I went to India and I would encounter masters who said that they could help to change the world, I was always in the back of my mind thinking that these are the people who I want to help, the people who have been very, very abused. And again, even if we don't agree on certain things, I had no judgment towards President Bush. I was just making a commentary on the State of the Union. Like one caller said before, the sex slavery can be like a metaphor for the mind control that we're all part of, to the point that it's hard because of our concern about image and looking right and being right and having the right clothes and going to the right places. We're shy to say what's really on our minds and share with other people because we think, oh, how are we going to be viewed? Frank Craven oftentimes had been considered crazy because he was so aligned with these dismal topics. But I remember when I brought one master to New York, and I had different people lined up to meet him, social contributors, because people who have great gifts, who have the capacity to do miracles, have an awareness that they wouldn't be given these gifts if they didn't share them. So I tried to line up all the social contributors I knew. And I remember this one master really paid attention to Frank. He really took note. And as one master told me, very great people at one time or another are considered crazy because their vision is out of sync with the rest of society. Webster Tarpley is one man that's definitely held the flame for 9/11 truth, and his book 9/11 Synthetic Terror Made in USA is a beautiful book, even for the writing, just for the writing alone. The way he turns a phrase, his elegance, his refinement, his education, it's well worth reading. And then, of course, on the level of information, I would highly encourage the caller who called before to read good information, to get a hold of good information. You're not going to find it on Fox News because there's vested interests. So again, that was a show that was done in August of 2000. It was very traumatic for me at the time, even though the callers were not nearly as challenging as some of the callers I've had here. Well, let's see if I've got one now. Hello, caller.
Hi, Paula. It's Rusty.
Great, Rusty. I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to miss you too.
When I go morning edition.
How am I going to talk to you now?
Okay, are you on the internet, Rusty?
Yeah.
Do the internet? Okay, got a pen and pencil? Write down Rabbit Hole Central at earthlink.net. Okay? Because
I love you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Rusty, and stay in touch. Okay?
I'm so sad though that your show's leaving. I feel like
no, it's not leaving. I'm going big time. I'm getting a daily show. So watch me in the morning. Thanks, Rusty. Okay, so we're getting towards the end here. I wanted to show a little bit of Webster Tarpley. So let me cruise you on over here. I had the good fortune to bring him to my house, and he talked about 9/11 Truth, and there's going to be a 9/11 Truth meeting in Los Angeles that perhaps I'll be going to and announcing this show. So let's get this one more caller. Hello, caller? Okay, we lost it. So let's go on with Webster here.
July 7th, 2005 in London. This was essentially all of the main facts on how this was state-sponsored terrorism were available on the internet in about 3 days, right? It had been prepared by 3 exercises: Atlantic Blue of the British, Top Off 3 of the US, Triple Play of Canada, and then you had Peter Powell of Visor Associates who said, oh my God, we were drilling bombs in those stations more or less at the same time. What could this be? Well, that's obviously how it was done. And I think now we have a much better understanding of how terrorism does not come from a cave in Afghanistan, does not come from Hezbollah or Iran, but it comes through drills, exercises, right? Mongoose, Operation Mongoose was supposed to be the killing of Castro, turned out to be the killing of Kennedy. I found in my study of the Hinckley attempt to kill Reagan, I found that Hinckley's brother had been meeting with Neil Bush, which is an interesting fact. I also found that there was a presidential succession exercise going on, 9 lives. So that was another one.
So what was the Reagan acted differently?
Get rid of Reagan, and it was Bush then assumed the presidency even as it was, because Reagan was knocked out for so long that Bush took over the presidency. The presidency was then run by Bush for the covert side, and then Bush's friend Baker and Deaver gravitated towards Bush. And that was it. And then Reagan was simply a figurehead.
So didn't it basically work for desperate men? Didn't the whole plan actually work because of all the billions and billions of dollars that were built from the United States coffers into the war, the industrial military complex? Didn't they make their money now? Are they done?
No, because I think money is the absolutely wrong way to look at it. The issue is world domination, and the key to world domination is the dollar. One of the underpinnings of the dollar is oil, but we should not exaggerate the question of oil, because other raw materials can be equally decisive at different times. And it's world domination. It's U.S., British. It's what you see. U.S., British world domination, with Israel perhaps added as a appendix to that, something like that.
So this shift into euros, investment into euros, is undermining that plan.
Yes, I mean we have to also agree that the predicament of the Anglo-American finance oligarchs is insoluble. There's no hope for them. The only question is, they can, with their various expedients, they'll drag down the world. They'll destroy the world. Is there anything that could put them out of business and neutralize them in any useful time? Again, the only thing I can think of is the greatest scandal of the age, 9/11 Truth, Septembergate. Call it what you want.
What do you say, Harold?
Let's hear from Harold.
She was here first.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's okay.
I just wanted to comment on the unfortunate skepticism of the public, though. So say that, in other words, it is proven that what many of us assumed all along, that this thing was politically motivated from the inside, and we prove it by the thermite and everything, okay? And we, you know, it comes out that, say, bin Laden actually never left the CIA and is a part of this whole thing, whatever. Whatever is proven, how do we get this skeptical public to believe, you know, to believe the true version of it, when this is a difficult thing, because no matter what truth is put in front of them, they want to believe that the government is still legitimate and the government wouldn't do that to us and blah, blah, blah. So what's your take on that?
I think you're too pessimistic. I think generally these attitudes, this is what we find in ourselves. This is the fruit of our isolation and atomization. But in these rare moments, along comes Jimmy Walter, right, the great political philanthropist, and he gets Zogby 2 years ago.
I just want to say that Jimmy Walters was the one who made the DVD that landed in my mailbox at 26 Gramercy Park.
This whole thing, whatever.
And that's why I got into 9/11 Truth. Let me just sweep around here. Notice Harold Channer is here. Alan Steinfeld, you can hear his voice. He must have been holding the camera. He's asking Harold, what do you think? So there's Harold. And there's my famous swastika that was under the picture I had of Shirdi Baba. That's when I was on Howard Stern, the yantra and mantra equals tantra. Yantra is a shape, mantra is a sound. And what I was trying to do was sort of meditate on a symbol that this society has such a strong opinion about and thus is enslaved to. So just because you're not using it doesn't mean you're free from it. Back here with Frank Craven. Frank could have been at the World Trade Center the day it went down. He was invited to a free breakfast and he chose not to go. But he knows an editor who used to teach editing at MNN, a 29-year-old, a mother, who died during that day. 2 people in my building died, and again, here's my building back here in the apartment when I ended this call-in show with Webster Tarpley. By the way, I stopped my work with Webster Tarpley because he didn't want to have anything to do with the no planes theory, and I was becoming very much more turned on by the 9/11 no planes people than I was with the controlled demolition. Take a look at this. When you click on these thumbnails, you get a full screen, and yet look what YouTube has done. They've shrunk it down to 1/4 of the size. They've done this on all my a lot of my older popular videos that have a lot of deep roots in the search engines, and I'm always begging with MNN. I shouldn't be begging anymore. I should be saying you're not doing your job. You're taking this money to give public access, and you're not really protecting the men and the women who have voices and messages that they want to share in their community. See all that dead space? There's no reason for that space to be around there. So if MNN has unlimited bandwidth, that would mean to me unlimited power, so why don't you use it, step up to the plate and do the right thing, and correct that. See what I mean, these little thumbnails here? Why isn't the screen full screen when I go like that, but then it shrinks down? It should stay big. Okay, so this is an argument for going live. I want to go live, MNN.